Do you know what natural phenomenon I've seen and he hasn't seen?
Yep.
Okay, watch and you can find out too.
Happy New Year and welcome to Around the World with Joshua and Alyssa. And because it is a new year, I decided that we are going to talk about some things that we would like to see, some things that we never have, but we hope to in the future. And so, being that it is January and where we are, it's really cold, I'm going to start with something you can only see where it is really, really, really cold. And that is the Northern Lights. And so let's go ahead and take a look at some pictures. These are not our pictures because, like I said, I have never seen the Northern Lights. Alyssa says that she has, but she was really young.
I was little, so it just looked like crazy colors, like a rainbow kind of in the sky.
So, yeah, I would like to see the Northern Lights, maybe even this year if it's possible. I mean, I have like 51 and a half weeks left that I could go see them, but they are not anywhere close to me. At least a several hours drive away if I want to get a glimpse of some. But I want to give you a quick explanation about what the Northern Lights are. They are also called Aurora Borealis. Is that right? Mm-hmm. And that is the official name, but they're commonly known as the Northern Lights. So here is what I found on Wikipedia. Auroras are the result of disturbances in the magnetosphere caused by solar wind. These disturbances alter the trajectories of charged particles in the magnetospheric plasma. These particles, mainly electrons and protons, precipitate into the upper atmosphere. The resulting ionization and excitation of atmospheric constituents emit light of varying color and complexity.
That's sounding very complicated.
Yes. So I think to make it easier to understand, there is light particles from the sun, and that's why they're called solar winds, that come into the outer atmosphere. And as they get pushed around in the outer atmosphere, which has magnetic poles, these particles just start to glow. And depending on the direction of the movements of all these electric particles, they make the different patterns that you see in the sky for these Northern Lights. So, that being said, I don't completely understand how it all works, so don't trust everything I say. But I would really like to go either way up north or way down south. Probably way up north because it's a lot more expensive and harder to get down to Antarctica where you can see these. But up in the Arctic Circle, like Alaska, Canada regions, you can see these. And I have friends who have seen them. I think maybe you can see somewhat way up north in Minnesota, I've heard.
I saw them in Wisconsin.
Okay.
So I think they're probably, you just have to be somewhere where there isn't a lot of city lights to be able to see them.
Yep.
Especially that bright.
Yeah. So yeah, being a photographer, this is like a dream to be able to get all these colors in a shot someday. So hopefully.
See what we can do.
Yep.
Maybe we'll make it there and then we'll be able to show you some of our own pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Because that'd be really fun. Okay, I have a new story today.
Okay.
So you can go get a snack and I'll tell my story.
Mm-hmm.
This is a brand new story to me. I had never heard this story either. So this is kind of fun. This one is called Madugu, and it's a true story about a little boy from the country of Liberia. So they have a really nice map here in the beginning of the book, and this is a map of the continent of Africa, and the country of Liberia, where this story is from, is right here on the coast. It's kind of shaded in gray a little bit. So it's right here on the western coast of Africa, not too far from Ghana, where we've been before. So, this is Liberia, and this will be our story about Madugu. It was a hot day, And Madugu was already just sweating, just walking along, well, more like hobbling along. He had a really sore leg, and it felt like it was burning every time he took a step, so he was walking with a little stick. And the pain in his leg made him just want to bite his lip because it hurt so bad. Well, he came by to a Jerusalem thorn tree, and his mom had said if you chew the leaves, it will help with the pain. So he got some of the leaves, and he chewed on them, but he still felt like his leg really, really, really hurt. So he wasn't sure if that was really going to help solve his problem. He looked at the swollen spot on his leg, and he even kind of chewed up some of the leaves and put it on there, and he waited, but it still wasn't feeling any better. It hurt just as much. Madugu sighed. He wished there was something else he could do, or someone who could help him. And he looked around and he saw the missionary's house. He'd heard about the missionaries, and he had some friends who'd even gone to visit the missionaries, and they'd been helped with some of the sicknesses that they had, and they were feeling much better. But he was a little concerned because Madugu was a Muslim, and Muslims are not allowed to really talk a lot with Christians, and they really don't want Christians to help them or to touch them if they're hurt. So he was really nervous about that. But the missionaries were such great helpers, and he had just seen them in the village the other day. They had been there, and they had been telling stories with a really, really cool book that he wanted to see again. He thought they're really more like angel helpers than they are people to hurt. So it can't really hurt if I just go over to their house and see them. So he went on that long sandy path. It took him a long time to get to the missionary's house because his leg was hurting him so much. He had to stop and rest multiple times before he could finally make it there. Eventually, though, he made it to the missionary's front door, and he knocked on the door, and the missionary lady, Mrs. De La Haye, came to the door. And she welcomed him in, and she washed up the sore on his leg, and she began to bandage it, and she said, Madugu, would you like to stay here while your leg heals? And he didn't even listen to that question because he was already thinking about something else. He remembered seeing the missionaries in the village and how they had that special book, so he wanted to ask about it. You have a talking book, don't you? He asked. The missionary lady looked really confused for a minute. She thought, oh, you mean the wordless book? Yes, we do. And actually, this afternoon, my husband, Mr. De La Haye, is going to be sharing with the children from the village some of the parts of that wordless book. Would you like to stay? Would you like to stay for a while until your leg heals? And Madugu said, well, maybe if somebody could go tell my father that I want to stay, then he would at least know that I'm here. Mrs. De La Haye said, no problem. We'll have our messenger bar, Cardu, take the message. And Cardu will go really fast. He has very fast running legs. Madugu thought that was pretty funny, and he laughed. He thought, you know what, maybe it won't be so bad to stay here with the missionaries for the afternoon. So he stayed around for the afternoon, and then all the boys and girls from the village began to gather in a room to hear Mr. De La Haye speak. And he got up to speak, and then Mrs. De La Haye said, well, this is the last chance I have to be able to check on your bandage again, so we'll have to do it one more time, but I'll try to hurry so you don't miss too much of the story. Madugu really hoped she'd hurry because he wanted to hear that whole story from that wordless book. And you're going to have to come back next time to see if he makes it to hear the whole entire story and what he learns about it.
Huh. I've never heard that one before either, but it sounds like a fun one.
Yeah. New to me?
Yeah. Okay, we are going to look at some missionaries in Brazil. The last time we looked at a couple, they were in Brazil as well, but they were up in the northern part of Brazil. This week we're going to look at some missionaries who are down more central or southern Brazil. Mm-hmm. And they are Roberto and Patricia Coelho. And Alyssa knows them better than I do because her family has known them for several years. But our church supports them, and so I got to know them here within the last few years. And I think we highlighted them about half a year ago. So I asked them a few questions about 2021, and I said, what were some personal family highlights from this year? And they said that the highlights of the year were their graduations. So Mr. Coelho graduated from Central Seminary here in Minnesota with his Doctor of Ministry. And There he is at his graduation. And Mrs. Quellu graduated with her degree in early childhood education. And so they both got to graduate this year. I asked about ministry highlights from 2021. They said that although 2021 was a difficult year because of the pandemic in Brazil, the Lord gave them many opportunities to preach the gospel. The construction of their church building was a huge blessing as well.
Wow.
And isn't that beautiful?
So nice.
Like, if I had not known better, I would not know that was in Brazil, because a lot of the other churches in Brazil that I see don't have like all those windows. And the other thing is that this looks like a nice storefront or some kind of a business,
it's really
and
beautiful.
it's just where they get to meet for their church meetings. We'll have another picture of it later, but it's just gorgeous. I asked if the people in Brazil had any specific region or regional or like national ways of celebrating Christmas. And he said that Brazilians like to eat panettone, or panettone, which is an Italian bread with like fruit bread. And they get together as families and they grill steaks as well.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That is a very good idea, because I
Both of
love
those are
Brazilian
great.
steak. Actually, I don't really care for fruit bread, but I do like this one. I don't know why. Maybe it's not as sweet as the ones that we get here in the States or
And
something.
it's not as dense.
Maybe
Like,
that's it
fruit
too.
cake is super dense, and this is really like
Fluffy. Yeah, that's true. So I would much rather have panettone than the fruit cake that we have here in the States. So that is what they do down there. I asked what they're looking forward to as a church in 2022. And he said, our prayer is that the Lord will continue giving us growth in 2022. They would also love to finish the construction of their church building. So they aren't completely finished with the building yet. As you can see, they made a lot of good progress, but they're hoping that they can get that done this year.
Do they have plans for another level, or like the possibility of another level?
I cannot remember for sure.
For some reason, I feel like they did, but I'm not positive.
Yeah, it looks like if you look at the back of this building, you see the back half, it has like things going up.
Just rebar.
So, yeah. So I'm pretty sure they do have that in the plans, and I think you're right. I think I do remember them mentioning that when they were here. I just can't remember for sure. Any praises and prayer requests? They said, please continue to pray for the salvation of souls and the growth of the disciples. Because that's why they're there, right? They're not there just to make people's lives easier, to help them be comfortable. They're there to help disciple people and to help more people come to know Christ as their Savior. Pray for the salvation of those who are doing Bible studies as well. So that is the Quellus. That is just a short summary of their 2021 and what they're looking forward to this year. And hopefully later on this year we'll give you another update on them and see how it's going.
Yep. Thanks for watching. Make sure you come back next week for the next part of the story. Somewhere else we want to go, or something else we want to see.
Yep.
And something else around the world.
And another hidden object
Oh, yeah, that
somewhere in
too.
our picture.
See you next
See you
time.
later.
Bye.
Bye.